Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Rosh Mohammed Salih here, the editor of Five Pillars, and this is a long overdue episode of The Big Picture. And today we're going to be talking about, well, the biggest sporting event ever to take place in the Muslim world. That is the FIFA World Cup, which will kick off in Qatar, the Gulf state of Qatar, on Sunday, November the 20th. So just about in a week and a half time. And obviously that's going to dominate the news for well over a month. The tournament, I think, finishes around December the 20th. So we're all as football fans, and I am a huge football fan, are really looking forward to the football aspect of the FIFA World Cup. But there's so much more, even if you don't like football, there's so much more that we can talk about today. The politics of Qatar staging the World Cup. Should Qatar be staging the World Cup in the first place? Did they bribe FIFA delegates to actually get the vote? Should they be spending £200 billion on World Cup infrastructure when that money could go to helping the Ummah? Is the Western criticism of Qatar, which has been vitriolic, vilification, is any of it justified? The LGBT stuff, the Islamic law stuff, the alcohol stuff, the migrant workers, is any of that justified whatsoever? Or is it just Western cultural imperialism, just another Western witch hunt? Should it compromise any of its Islamic values? Well, it's already done that. It's already basically allowed LGBT culture to be prevalent during the World Cup. So idiots like Harry Kane, who probably doesn't know much about politics at all, if anything, he's going to be wearing a rainbow armband which breaks Qatari law. They've already said that they're going to extend their alcohol laws, so fans will be allowed to drink alcohol in fan zones, and then they're going to have these sobering up zones as well, where they can, after they've got drunk and caused havoc, they can go and sober up afterwards. Also, I think Qatar are going to allow unmarried couples to share hotel rooms and stuff like that. So basically, they're compromising big time on Islamic law. And also, let's talk a little bit about the footy as well. I don't want to bore people that maybe aren't into football, but we'll talk a little bit about the Muslim teams. I think there's about 6 or 7 Muslim teams in the World Cup. So we'll talk about their chances. Are you supporting England? I certainly am not. Anyone but England. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Okay, so we're going to have guests from Manchester and London joining us today. One of our guests is actually going to the World Cup, is going to be spending the entire duration of the World Cup in Qatar. So inshallah, we can also talk to him a little bit when he's out there to get a bit of a flavor of what's going on during the tournament. And what else should I say? So obviously keep your comments coming in. We really bounce off your comments on the big picture. I'll endeavor to read out as many as possible. Please keep them clean, keep them relevant. Ask us questions. I'm someone who's actually lived in Qatar, so I know the country very well. I know it extremely well, in fact. So I can answer some of your questions if you have any. Also, we're going to do a little bit of an experiment today after 7:30. So we're going to play some videos out, have a discussion with our guests, but then after 7:30, we're actually going to talk to some guests. Sorry, we're going to actually invite you guys on, you viewers. If you're brave enough to come on, and there's nothing to fear whatsoever, we'll treat you with kid gloves. We're going to actually open the live stream to you. I'll be posting that in the comments shortly. So there's a link where you can basically join the feed, make your points, ask us questions, etc., etc. Just join the conversation. We've tried that once before. It kind of worked. In fact, it worked quite well. But it does take it did take a little bit of cajoling on my part to get people on. But once they came on, the floodgates opened, and we had a really good time. The last thing to say, brothers and sisters, is Super Chats is activated today. So if you like what you see, if you like Five Pillars work and the stuff that we're doing, please do donate to us today, inshallah. And that'll really help us to carry on the work that we're doing to defend Islam and Muslims. Okay, so brothers and sisters, we're going to start off with a couple of videos before I read out some of your comments. I can see your comments already coming in. Jazakallah khair for that. So let me play out the first video today, which is basically the World Cup final stadium. Just take a look at this. So that's Al Lusail, I think. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Stadium, which will host the World Cup final. Some aerial footage of it. Now, this year's World Cup has basically cost Qatar 200 billion pounds. Yeah, 200 billion pounds, and that's 20 times the amount that Russia spent on hosting the World Cup in 2018. So that's 200 billion pounds of the Ummah's money, oil and gas money. Now, ever since Qatar was awarded the World Cup in 2010, it's been building infrastructure that will accommodate the extra 1.5 million guests that it's going to basically host during the World Cup period. And I think the population of Qatar is about 3 million. So 1.5 million in such a tiny country is a huge undertaking. Now, the building of stadiums themselves cost about 6 to 8 or 6 to 9 billion pounds. And the rest of the money was spent on developing infrastructure, including construction of hotels, a metro network, and airports. Now, a lot of the Western media coverage, brothers and sisters, has been about the LGBT issue and the migrant workers that are suffering in Qatar. And the Secretary General of FIFA, her name was or is Fatima Samoura from Senegal. She basically gave an interview a few days ago where she dismissed Western fears about how minority and LGBT people are going to be treated in Qatar. And she said, no matter your race, religion, your social and sexual orientation, you are most welcome. And Qataris are ready to receive you with the best hospitality that you can imagine. Let's have a listen to a little bit more of what she had to say.
Since Qatar get awarded this World Cup, there have been some challenges. And measures have been taken over the past 6 years, and especially by the new leadership of FIFA. Let's face it. The first thing that really should be highlighted for the people who are still thinking that human rights issues have not been tackled in Qatar is the abolishment of the kafala system. People can consider Qatar as a conservative society, like my own country in Senegal. But let me tell you one thing. Qataris are the most hospitable people you can find on earth. The food is great. The tea is beautiful. And when you will be walking along this beautiful Corniche, you will see something that you have never seen before. You will see magic. You will see light. You will see flavor. You will see smiles. No matter your race, your religion, your social and sexual orientation, you are most welcome. And Qataris are ready to receive you with the best hospitality that you can imagine. Measures have also been taken during the very hot period of the year to protect workers. Inspections have been carried out on the sites where workers are operating, but also in the accommodation part and in hotels and in restaurants where people will be going for their meals or for their accommodations. We have been working over the past 6 years with the International Labour Organization, with the Building Woodworkers International, with the Center for Sport and Human Rights. And those entities are the ones saying that, yes, in terms of achievement, in terms of progress, Qatar can be designated as a model to follow by other countries in the region. On Sunday, 20th of November, 2022, the eyes of the world will be on Qatar. It will be a festival of football and definitely a month of celebration. After what we have been through over the past 2 years, it's a unique opportunity for fans around the world to come and be united by the greatest show ever.
Okay, so Allahu Akbar, we've already got a super chat in, £5 or £4.49 from Faisal 007. The money was not only spent on football, as you say, It's mostly that it was delayed and was added to the World Cup budget of spending. So Faisal, Jazakallah khair for your kind donation. I hope that encourages other people to donate during the course of the show. This isn't a fundraiser, by the way. I'm not going to be calling for money throughout the show, but it will be very grateful received if you can possibly spare the change. Faisal's obviously commenting on my comment about 200 billion being spent. Yeah, most of that went on infrastructure, but the question still is, Qatar is already a first world country and it's got better facilities than the UK has in many ways. Is that 200 billion justified when, it could have gone to Palestine, it could have gone to Afghanistan, it could have gone to so many areas where the Ummah is suffering? It does seem like a waste of money to me. £10 from J786 Nath, 786 Nath may weigh heavily on your scales. It's time for Qatar to follow the UK policy on migrants. Instead of giving them jobs and making a living, they should start transferring them to Rwanda. Well, I had this idea, 786 Nath, of actually forget about the sobering up zones. Drunk fans, they should sober up on the deportation flight home. Okay, that should be the sobering up zone. Get rid of them, get them out of the country. That would happen under normal circumstances in Qatar, but they seem to be kind of relaxing the rules during the World Cup. Okay, let me read some of your other comments out before I get to the guests, inshallah. Okay, Free Palestine says 5 Pillars has yet to address the Shahada being used in a dance concert in Saudi. That's not true, Free Palestine. Sorry, this is a bit off topic, but we actually had a big video about 6 months ago, whenever it happened. We made a big deal out of it, and obviously we do not support that. We think it's sacrilegious. So that is my comment, and it's a comment that was already made at the time. I'll skip past the Assalamu alaikum. So many Assalamu alaikums to me personally and to 5 Pillars and praise for the good work that we're doing. I'll skip past all that and just say a communal Jazakallah khairan to everybody. Asmoz says, purely for football reasons, the World Cup being in November, December is not right, as most European leagues are in mid-season as well. Qatar should have never have hasted too small of a country. It is a tiny country, really it's the size of Wales or less. Yeah, there's lots of injuries. I think Sadio Mane is injured, Son's injured, Reece James is injured. So many injuries are happening because it's in mid-season. That's the football talk. I'll try and limit the football talk because I know some of you might be bored with it. A few more comments before we get to our guests. Cloven Shield says Qatar panders to Westerners and gets humiliated. They certainly have compromised on Islamic law, but we'll get to that later, inshallah. The West had no problem selling weapons to Qatar, knowing their abysmal human rights record. A bit of praise for Robert Carter on the comments, but I won't read them out. I don't want him to get a big head. 6,500 workers died in Qatar World Cup 2022 infrastructure constructions. I'm not sure if that 6,500 figure is accurate or not. I'll ask Jahangir about that, one of my guests, in a few minutes. And skipping past a few comments, inshallah. The Islamic finance guru, that's Ibrahim Khan, a friend of mine, has an interesting defense of Qatar's spend. Apparently, the amount was set for infrastructure anyway. I'm sure Dubai has spent similar amounts without the same scrutiny. Yeah, if you go on the IFG YouTube channel, you'll see a very interesting... I don't agree with what he said, actually. I told him that. But it's a defense of Qatar, and it's worth watching Ibrahim Khan's defense of Qatari spending during the World Cup. One more comment, perhaps. I think Roshan made a great suggestion the other day about Muslim players showing support for Palestine at the World Cup. I think they should. If Westerners like Harry Kane and Jordan Henderson and all these kind of Western cultural imperialists are going to be wearing LGBT armbands and breaking Qatari law, then surely the Muslim players can wave Palestine flags around and wear Free Palestine armbands. Because, if what's good for the goose is good for the gander, quite frankly, this can't be a platform for Western cultural imperialism to run riot. And if they're going to do that, then we, as Muslims, we have to do our own share of propaganda. Surely, that's only fair. Okay, let me introduce our guests, inshallah. So I'll get both of them on at the same time and introduce them both. So I'll start off with Jahangir Mohammed. Assalamu alaikum, Jahangir. How are you?
Walaikum salam. How are you, Roshan?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. And Jahangir Mohammed is the director of the Ayan Institute. So I encourage everybody to Google Ayan Institute. You did a recent report on Muslim minorities, didn't you, Jahangir? Which I think everyone should read. We cover their events and opinion pieces regularly on 5 Pillars. But the reason, obviously, Ayan Institute is a think tank, but I haven't got Jahangir Mohammed on for that reason. I've got him on because he's going to the World Cup and he's going to be spending a month in the state of Qatar during the World Cup. So I'm going to be asking him what he's looking forward to, etc., etc. But let me introduce Robert next. Robert, you are muted, by the way, which is fine for the moment, but just to let you know. So Robert Carter, of course, judging from the comments, a lot of you guys know Robert. He's been on 5 Pillars many times, contributes to us many times. So Robert is a journalist, and Robert has his own YouTube channel and his own TikTok channels. I encourage you guys to kind of Google him, and especially on YouTube and TikTok, just put it in the search engine and you'll find his content. So Robert is a specialist on Muslim affairs, like we are at 5 Pillars. And he's a general, I guess you're a general loudmouth, aren't you, Robert? General kind of social media loudmouth. You just got opinion on everything. And that's why ultimately I got you on today. And I will be insulting Robert regularly during this feed. And I hope he gives me it back a little bit as well. Jahangir, I'm going to treat you with a little bit more respect. So let's begin with Jahangir. So Jahangir, you're going to the World Cup. You're probably leaving very shortly. What are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to the whole thing. As you know, like you, I'm a great football fan and a Manchester United lifelong supporter. I'm just, it's the first time in a Muslim country, which I think is going to be a unique experience. But, you know, I have a special interest in sociology and social problems and social policies. So that whole experiment interests me and excites me to see how they're going to manage that, the whole cultural interaction. From a young point of view, obviously, I'm interested in the development of Muslim countries and finding out what's going on generally in the Muslim world.
What matches,
I think it's going to be a great experience.
What matches have you got tickets for?
Well, I've got one in the first round, then in the next round, and one for the quarterfinals. The only match that I know at the moment, and you'll be interested in this, is Wales versus Iran. So,
oh wow!
I know you're from Wales.
Yeah, because obviously I'm half Welsh. Yeah, we'll get onto this a bit later.
I didn't get an England one, but I've been drawn for the Wales one.
Lucky you. Yeah. I'm anyone but England, of course. My favourite World Cup moments is usually when England get knocked out on penalties in a quarter-final. And I love it so much because, especially after a great performance, because basically it gives them so much hope, and then all that hope is dashed at the last minute when an Argentinian scores that winning penalty. It just makes me so happy. But I will be supporting Wales. Obviously spent a lot of my life in Wales and love Wales absolutely. So I will be supporting them.
So I should have a banner saying "I'm here for Russian."
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and what can I, Robert? If I can come to you. Sorry, Jahangir. Sorry, someone's just calling me. Let me just delete the call. Yeah, so before I come to Robert, Jahangir, let me ask you a question I posed at the beginning and others opposing on the comment section. 200 billion quid. Now, I know a lot of that was on infrastructure, but still 200 billion quid to spend. Couldn't that have been better spent elsewhere? Does Qatar really need to host the World Cup? Is this really a big deal for the Muslim world? Or is it a sign of the times of where we're at, where we're basically squandering money on football clubs and football tournaments rather than really helping the Ummah?
Well, I think the answer to that, Roshan, is a lot of these Gulf states are looking beyond the end of the oil that they have. And obviously they're worried because what do they have apart from oil and desert? And they've transformed a lot of the desert into economies, into infrastructure. So partly I think Qatar is looking to the future. And whilst they have done some development, I think this is really the scale of I was there last year and probably the year before. And I think the scale of development is immense. The roadworks, I've been on the metro last year, and I think it's great that they're doing all that. Of course, you can always argue it should be spent elsewhere in the Ummah, but I'd rather have them spend it on the country and the infrastructure and developing the country, rather than having it sat in investments in the United States or in banks in the United States, which probably, if they didn't spend it here, they would do. So I think, or buying parts of London, properties in London. So I think you can look at it that way, but all this development, whether it's in Dubai, in the Emirates, or I see it as the development of the Ummah's lands and infrastructure. So yes, we can be critical about the regimes, but ultimately, these things are there for the benefit of their local people, obviously, but for the Ummah as well at some point.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I take your point there, Jahangir. It is definitely the lesser of two evils, spending it in the Muslim world rather than in the West. But the only thing I would push back on a little bit is that obviously 90% of Qatar's population is basically South Asian migrant workers, and this isn't for them, really, is it? It's
no. The wealth should be shared, and they should get a greater slice of the cake that
because they built the country.
In all these countries, the South Asian and Filipinos and others, and expatriates from other parts of the world are actually not just built the economies, but the buildings and the infrastructure.
Built the country.
But they're running these economies. And you could see, in one way, you could be critical, but in another way, if you look at it from a Western point of view, where they are always criticizing the number of migrants coming in, the migrants are taking over. Literally, the migrants and the expatriates are outnumbering the locals and running the whole country for them. So maybe that's another perspective on the whole thing. Yes.
All right, Jahangir, let me get Robert in, if you don't mind. Sorry to cut you off, Jahangir, but let me get Robert in because he's been waiting there patiently. Robert, so what do you make of all this? We talked about this yesterday. So let me ask you the question: what do you make of the Western coverage, mainstream media coverage of the Qatari World Cup? I expected some vilification, but the Western Qatar, they're kind of mates in a way. There are lots of, kind of reciprocal business and political arrangements. So I wasn't expecting the same vilification. What did you make of it?
Well, quite frankly, I'm sick of it, Roshan. It's been endless. It's been getting worse the closer we get to the competition. And quite frankly, I'm not going to sit here and advocate for a ban on criticism of the Qatari government by any means or anything like that. I again expected a level of criticism, and everyone has a right to, freedom of speech, to voice their opinions on the matter. But at the end of the day, we've now reached a point, as you've mentioned very well in the beginning of this show, that privileged, self-entitled, like footballers, for example, who I have absolutely no respect for Harry Kane's political position at all on any issue, they feel as if they're entitled some way to go to the Middle East to lecture the locals about how they should behave, what they should be thinking and feeling, and desecrate local Arab culture, basically, stick two fingers up to Islamic traditions as well in a very traditional and religious part of the world, and do whatever the heck he feels like he wants to do, wear rainbow armbands, peddle political propaganda. And this shouldn't be tolerated. And actually, FIFA, for example, I think are being gutless cowards because they're not even bothering to enforce their own freaking policies on this. Keep politics, keep your own freaky messages that no one cares about outside of the sporting arena. People are paying big money. I don't know how much Brother Jahangir paid to go and watch this tournament, but I bet it was quite a lot, and he deserves to go there, enjoy the environment, enjoy the football without being lectured about LGBT rights constantly and how Islam is oppressive for women or something like that. I'm getting sick and tired of it, and I think many people are, not just Muslims as well, but even non-Muslims are getting sick and tired of political messages being forced down their throat. It's just a shame that it seems that, given the fact that this is the first time ever in World Cup history that a Muslim, Arab, Middle Eastern country is hosting it, all of a sudden they're being treated very differently. If we're going to talk about human rights, then the first country who should be kicked out of competing in the World Cup would be the United States of America. England probably too. Do I have to go on about the Iraq war, the occupation of Afghanistan, the millions of Muslims who have been killed? Yet who's being lectured about human rights in this competition? It's the Muslim nation Qatar. So quite frankly, I don't think any of these critics have a leg to stand on. And I really wish that the Qatari authorities would actually, again, stick to their principles and enforce their laws on.
Yeah, what would you do?
What
would you do to Harry Kane? Harry Kane's going to go out with an LGBT armband in his first match. Jordan Henderson said he'll do it as well. What would you do to them? You're the Emir of Qatar. What would you do, Robert?
I would slap the handcuffs on him. I basically, quite frankly, I'd ban him entry. I'd ban him entry in all seriousness. If you're not going to follow the rules, if you're going to disrespect local culture and customs, and if you're going to peddle political messages and turn what's supposed to be a harmonious, inclusive sporting environment into a political platform to peddle propaganda and divisive opinion and try to upset people, which is exactly what they're doing. They're going there to upset Muslims and the locals. Then I'm sorry, but you should be banned from competing. People are saying that Qatar should be banned or Iran should be banned because of such and such reason. Well, quite frankly, there's a million reasons why Western countries should be banned from competing as well. If you're going to play this game, keep politics out of football. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Let us enjoy the damn game. Excuse my language.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would arrest and deport Harry Kane and take great pleasure in doing it because, I mean, he's going to break Qatari law, right? Homosexuality is banned in Qatar. Okay, it's an Islamic country. It's banned in most Islamic countries and even some non-Muslim countries as well. You know, like Uganda is a Christian country. It's banned there as well. And the majority of the world is conservative, have conservative values. The West is not the world, you know, and they're imposing their cultural imperialism on a sovereign Muslim nation. What an insult. How dare they? Seriously, imagine you and me, if we were foreigners, come to this country and we blatantly say we are going to flout the law. What would happen to us? We'd be arrested. We'd be deported on next flight home. Do you know what I mean? Look, it's approaching 7:30 now, brothers and sisters, and I pinned the link to the top of the YouTube chat, I think, so anyone can join. I see that Ahmed has already joined. I can see him in the studio. Ahmed, I'm going to get you on in a few minutes' time. I'm really looking forward to getting your opinion on this. Maybe you'll go to the World Cup as well. Ahmed Cabello, a friend of the station. But let me go back to Jahangir before I get Ahmed on. Jahangir, obviously, you know, you're going to Qatar. You got your pulse on what's happening there. What are people in Qatar saying about the media vilification, political and media vilification of the nation of Qatar? What are people saying there? How are they reacting to this?
Well, I think I think Qatar has been shielded from a lot of criticism, so they will be surprised, and some of them have shocked. But it's interesting, the expat community there, particularly of the Europeans and others who work out there, they're actually quite shocked by it as well, because their experience of Qatar is different. Some of the things that are being said in relation to women not being allowed out and all that, it's just, quite frankly, a lot of it's just propaganda, and they don't see it. So they actually, I've heard that some of them are comparing it with Dubai and saying, well, people in Dubai get treated a lot worse, and why does nobody ever criticize Dubai? But I think they're quite surprised by the level of it. And of course, whilst it's true that LGBT is same-sex relations are criminalized, the Qataris have actually relaxed the whole laws for a month to accommodate people. They've made compromises on alcohol, on other issues. So the criticism, the level of venom is hostile. In 1966, same-sex relations were criminalized in this country, but England held the World Cup. Same-sex relations weren't really outlawed in the United States till 2003, yet they hosted the World Cup in 1994. So I think you will always get human rights groups and people who have a interest in using that in sports, but and in some cases, I don't disagree with that. I think sometimes it's good. Sport can be used as a vehicle of change. I'd like to, apartheid South Africa is the example before us, but FIFA have a rule that there's no politics in. There shouldn't be any politics in sport. They seem to be flouting their own rules.
Yeah.
Imagine if every team then decided to show support for their own particular cause at the World Cup. It would be a bit chaotic.
It would be absolutely
so there needs to be a balance.
Yeah. It was probably better when it was completely banned, but that went out the window with Ukraine, didn't it? All this kind of support for the war against Russia. Before I bring Ahmed on, I would just like to say that, from my own personal perspective, having lived in Qatar, I'm not trying to whitewash Qatar here, by the way, because I do think there are some legitimate issues. I hate the Western vilification campaign, which is based on racism, xenophobia, and Islamophobia. And I take it, even though I'm not a fan of Qatar particularly, I take it as an insult to me as a Muslim, because by extension, this is an attack on Islam and Muslims. That's how I see it. But there are issues in Qatar. And one thing which never gets mentioned, brothers and sisters, is the massive US airbase which exists in Qatar, CENTCOM. The control center of the American war machine is hosted in Qatar. That is their biggest sin, as far as I forget everything else. That is their biggest sin, and it's an unforgivable sin, because that was basically used to launch the wars on Iraq and Afghanistan, and is used to basically spy on and control and intimidate and threaten the whole Muslim world. Now, no one ever talks about that. But in fact, for me, that is the biggest sin and an unforgivable sin of the Qatari leaders who have facilitated that. That is the harm that they are doing to the Ummah. So no one should ever forget that. And no one ever mentions it. And it frustrates me. If you're going to mention anything, mention that. Secondly, the migrant workers, they are poorly treated. They have been, they used to have this kafala system when I was there, where they basically take their passports. They even took my passport when I lived there, and I got it back a few months later. These migrant workers probably will never get it back. They're paid very poor wages. Sometimes they're not paid at all. And basically they live in overcrowded accommodation. Things have got slightly better because of the World Cup, alhamdulillah. But still, compared to the rest of the population, they're not even second-class citizens, they're third-class citizens. And they're even kept out of the eye of a lot of the Western tourists. They live in separate areas away from the main cities. They're not allowed to just go to shopping malls and stuff like that, or they're discouraged from doing it. So that is a great sin as well. And the third thing is that the social hierarchy in Qatar, which is basically racism. The only thing I can call it is racism. And at the top, and this is me generalizing, but at the top are the Qataris. Underneath them are the white Westerners, who obviously can live a better life than back home, quite frankly. Under them are probably the Arab professionals. And then at the bottom are the South Asian, kind of laborers from Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India. And it doesn't matter whether they're Muslims or not, they're still going to be treated like dirt. They're treated really badly. And I spoke to loads of them. A lot of them, you interact with them every day. When they're taxi drivers, if you speak Arabic or Urdu, you can communicate with them. And they all say to you, the Qataris treat us terribly. And this is the reality, but their voices are hardly ever heard. Okay, let me get guests on, inshallah. Ahmed Caballo, Salam alaikum, Ahmed. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, so let me introduce Ahmed. Ahmed is a journalist. I used to work with him for several years. Now he's doing his own thing. Very grateful for you joining us today, Ahmed. It was at short notice. Just invited you on and you just came on. What are you looking for? What are your thoughts on the upcoming World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'd like to congratulate Robert on that fiery speech. It was like listening to Minister Louis Farrakhan when he gets going. Different stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, seeing how the African teams do, to be honest.
Right.
I feel like, Senegal have got, a relatively good chance.
They've lost
Ghana,
Sadio Mane, haven't they?
huh?
They've lost Sadio Mane, haven't they?
Have they lost Sadio Mane?
I think he's injured and he's a doubt for the World Cup. He got injured last night playing for Bayern.
Oh, I did not know that. I did not know that. Ghana have got a rematch with Suarez in Uruguay after the cheating, so and so. I won't say it on this live stream. Cheated them out of the World Cup. I think it was in 2006 when he handled the ball off the
2010.
line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to the football, all of the other stuff. That people are trying to make this World Cup about. It's not to say it's not interesting. It's just I just find it, so hypocritical. If we had this energy of examining, the policies, foreign policy and domestic policy of every nation that held the World Cup, then that'd be one thing. But just to single out Qatar in this way just seems to me so ridiculous, particularly when you look at who's hosting the next World Cup. The next World Cup is being hosted by United States, Canada, and Mexico.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, United States has 1,000 military bases around the world. It's currently intervening in Haiti. It's trying to intervene in Burkina Faso, in Niger. Canada is the United States' poodle. If anyone thinks the UK's United States' poodle, they've got no idea what Canada is. Justin Trudeau is trying to intervene right now in Haiti. He's already sending weapons and destabilizing and supporting the dictatorship. So these countries have got no moral high ground that they should be standing on, pointing the finger at anyone. And what annoys me about this World Cup is the liberals, it just shows what they value and what they don't value. Dropping white phosphorus on, kids of Fallujah is not important. That's forgotten about. Alistair Campbell and figures that are associated with that war are just rehabilitated and now just, popular figures on social media. Iraq war, Afghanistan, all of that's forgotten about. So yeah, I'm just focused on the World Cup. It's not like you've just mentioned, some of the problems in Qatari society. I've never been there, so I don't want to act like I'm an expert. But from what I've read, it does sound, very similar to what you've described. However, this isn't the energy that we have during World Cups. So I refuse to, allow the Western mainstream narrative to dictate on, how we should see a World Cup. Usually World Cups are about excitement, about the players, about, who's going to be golden boot. What are you laughing at?
Sorry, nothing.
Did I miss something? Something I said or something else?
No. It's all right. It's just a comment someone made.
Okay.
Yeah, go on. Sorry to break your flow.
Yeah. So World Cups are usually about who's going to get the golden boot, who's likely to win it, Messi versus Ronaldo, those types of debates. Will it be the tournament where one of them finally comes home with a trophy? These are usually the conversations, but this time round, it's anything but that.
Should we talk a little bit about football? Because I've been avoiding talking about football because I don't want to bore people and alienate people because I know that a lot of people don't care about football that may be watching today. But let's talk a little bit about it.
Sure.
Rob, should we go on to Robert? Is that a red England shirt? I see, Robert. Are you supporting England?
Basically, I had an England shirt, but I grew out of it because I've had kids recently, so my weight has times.
Did you have the kids?
Did you give birth?
I'm taking credit for having them, but no, I personally did not go through labour. I'm not one of those.
So you're supporting England, basically. You're supporting England, despite everything.
I'm wearing red. It's like the colour of the team, but no, it's not England top. I'm too poor to afford a proper.
He asked you a direct question.
I went into.
Are you supporting England in the World Cup?
Basically, I'm one of those guys that will watch England play. But do I personally support them? Like, will I be going and waving the England flag? No, I won't. But I'll be watching them among other teams. I know Roshan has a particularly hardline view on this. He's cheering for them to lose badly. And I guess Roshan's probably the more interesting person to speak about this. But I'll be watching a few teams. I'm very interested. Like Ahmed, you said, there's a lot of African teams. We'll see how they perform here. There's a lot of Muslim teams as well, Muslim nations: Tunisia, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Iran. So it's interesting, and I think every group has kind of like one Muslim team, one African team in it. So it'll be interesting to see how they do.
The Muslim teams in the World Cup are Iran, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Tunisia, Qatar, Senegal. So those 6. So
Ghana.
Iran never gets past the first round, do they? They're a decent team, but they're not going to get past the first round. They're in a hard group as well with England, USA, and Wales. Saudi Arabia, nah. Morocco.
They're the ones always on the receiving end of a thrashing at the World Cup.
Saudi Arabia, 10-0 or whatever. Yeah. Morocco, decent team, but again, second round max. I don't know what group they're in. Tunisia, rubbish team, will go nowhere. Qatar, are all their footballers imported from Qatar? Because I know Qatar have this policy of, I don't know, Jahangir, you might be able to answer this. They won't give nationality to anybody, basically. Qatar will, you could live there 100 years. You could be born there, but if you're Indian, you're Indian. You could literally never go to India and spend a whole life in Qatar. You will never get nationality. However, if you're a fast runner or a good sportsman, you get the green card. You get that nationality straight away. So, are any of the Qatari players actually Qatari?
I think some are. I think I've seen a program they were interviewing somebody. I think Gary Neville interviewed one of the Qatari players. But yeah, you're right. They buy everything they need.
They couldn't buy love. I saw a Facebook post of you. They can buy everything, but they can't buy love, can they?
Yeah, I put that up there. But yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. I always enjoy watching the progress of the African
They all part the bus, don't they?
Teams, and I usually support the Latin American teams because they play the best football.
Yeah.
But their standards have gone down the last few years, so I might actually buy a Three Lions English T-shirt and cheer for England this time. But let's see.
Oh my God.
I usually support football and the best players.
Obviously, I'm a big football fan, and I must admit, I don't like watching the small teams because they just park the bus. It's really boring because obviously that's the only thing they can do is to win a game. They've got to park the bus, but they just make it defense versus attack, and it's really quite excruciating to watch, to be honest. So I don't like the opening rounds. I like the quarterfinals, semifinals, final between the big teams. I must admit.
I think some of the lesser teams do play attacking football as well. So I think, generally you're right, but you do get some of the African teams really going for it, and sometimes the Tunisias and Moroccos having a go. So that can make it very interesting.
Yeah. Brothers and sisters, you can join the chat. We tried this once before. It took me a lot of cajoling to get people on, but it's pinned to the top of the YouTube link. So anyone wants to join the chat, you're more than welcome. We'll keep this going for maybe another half an hour or less if no one joins. I'm getting loads of comments in, and I'm happy to read out the comments. We can bounce off the comments. But ideally, if you're brave enough, someone just join the chat. Just come on, say what you got to say, make your points, ask us questions, challenge us, agree with us, disagree with us. That would be great. Anything else you wanted to add there, Ahmed?
Yeah, I mean, an interesting talking point would be, as Muslims, should we support England? Do you know what I mean?
What do you reckon?
I don't support England. I root and pray that they lose every game. But I don't know if that's the Muslim in me or the African in me. It's probably a combination of both. You know,
the only thing
I've got grudges on both sides of my identity.
You know, I must admit that if I was just being me, I would slaughter England, troll them every single day during a major tournament. But I had some kind of blowback, Jahangir and Robert, during the last World Cup from Five Pillars readers. And they were saying, "Oh, this is unbecoming of the editor of Five Pillars. You should be above this." And they don't realize how immature I am, whether I'm editor of Five Pillars or not.
Well, you're making the game about politics and your own personal views. Now, I personally respect your views because I know you. But I think a lot of the people who are watching the game and supporting the teams,
they think I'm a serious person.
Respect your opinion on this when it comes to pushing politics into sports. So that's my comeback to it. Basically, look, people want to go and just enjoy a game, right? They don't want to be lectured about how evil they are and their country is evil at this particular occasion. There are other occasions outside of the sporting world where you can lecture people about this and do. If people want to watch that type of coverage, they can turn on the news. But on this occasion, they're turning on a football match. They want to watch a ball get kicked up and down the field at the end of the day, not a lecture on morality. And this is the problem that I have with the Western coverage of Qatar hosting it. We're being given this lecture.
I'm honest. I just cannot disassociate the England football team from the racism that I've experienced in my youth, especially from the colonialism. I literally, when I see the England football team, I just see dead bodies in Iraq, you know, and Afghanistan. I know that's going a bit far, but it's colonialism, it's racism, it's oppression. That's what I know, that not every single player might have those.
Come on, Russian. You need to chill and let your hair down and just enjoy the football. I mean,
but it's difficult to enjoy because they start off with "God Save the Queen," then from the stands they start singing "Royal Britannia, Britain ruled the waves," you know, and the jingoistic nationalism that's associated with England. When 3 black players miss penalties, then they want to beat up black fans that are in and around the stadium. So it's like it's different. You know, you say all that, but then it's very difficult because whenever you allow yourself to get, you know, taken away by the mania, so there's always something to remind you that, you know, you're not actually part of, you know, the England.
Well, I think you're out of touch because lots of young kids now, they, you know, young Muslims are really, you know, you'll see them with the England shirts and supporting. It's you know, the Five Pillars is going to be really out of touch with the youth of this Muslim youth of this country.
Were you born in Pakistan or Britain?
I was born in Pakistan, but I came as a small child.
Yeah, like you, a small child came over here. I don't know whether it's foreign-born Muslims; they feel a bit differently. But are you saying to me that kind of, you know, English Muslims, despite all the Islamophobia and the wars, colonial wars, they still in their gut they feel really English? Is that what you're saying? Because I don't feel English.
I think you're taking it too serious. I think supporting a football team is not really about being English. People support their team and they see those players all the time for their own team. So, you know, I see Man United players playing for England. I support them. I don't think the young kids, the young Muslims growing up here, they're just like the rest of society. They just love football. They don't really. They're not really as nationalistic and jingoistic as maybe the media or the politicians or commentators are.
You say that, but, you know, like we can only go off the last tournament. 3 black players missed penalties. And what was the response? They weren't treated as, you know, English lads. They all of a sudden become black lads. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same thing that happened with Mesut Ozil playing for Germany. You know, when he's playing well, he's German. When he's playing badly, he's Turkish. And it's like, you know, the same thing. What Muslim does England even have any Muslim players? Does the England national team even have any Muslim players?
Can I ask you a question, Ahmed?
Yeah.
What about France? France, like half their team or more is Muslim. But I'm not going to support them because they haven't said a damn thing about the Islamophobia, the torrent of Islamophobia in France over the last few years. So for that reason alone, whether they're Muslim or not, I'm not supporting France. Would you support France just because their players are Muslim, just because they're brown and black?
No. No, and
I think France is at a different level, isn't it? Though I think the Islamophobia there. I mean, that's an interesting point in itself. You know, for Muslims, the biggest sort of bugbear is anti-Muslim hatred and Islamophobia. If we do what other groups are doing, we could say, well, you shouldn't hold the World Cup in England because there's so much hatred against Muslims or abuse of Muslims. But, you know, it's football.
What's the population of Muslims in the UK? 2 million?
About
2
4
million?
million?
No. It'll be about 3.5 million. Census results are coming out, so it'll be about 3.5 million.
3.5 million. So out of 3.5 million Muslims, and Muslims, you know, from all different backgrounds are, you know, a lot of them are obsessed with football. How come none of them have broken into, you know, the English team? How come we don't have any Premier League football players? And I think there's a lot of talented Muslim football players, but at academy level, you know, the culture around British football is so anti-Islamic that it kind of siphons these people out of it, away from the game. It's all about drinking and, you know, these offensive chants, you know, bigging up the British Army and the Empire. And so I think, you know, there's a problem there. And that's part of the reason why I've never associated with the England football team. The whole culture surrounding it, the forced minute silence for, you know, royals and whatnot when they pass away. It just, there's nothing there that makes me associate with them. There's no Muslim players there. The black players there don't ever speak up about, you know, African issues or, you know, the fact what the West is doing in Africa or in the Caribbean. So there's just nobody there that I could relate to. Like, you know, Muhammad Ali as a boxer, he motivated millions of Muslims to pick up some gloves. Who's the kind of, you know, the Muhammad Ali of the English football game? There is none. All of the interviews are so boring. All of these players, yeah, it was a good game. We tried and we're gonna do better next.
They're thick.
They're just devoid of personality, devoid of, you know, principles. Yeah.
Oh, come on, guys! You're being very unfair now. John Barnes speaks out about racism. You know, some of the other players do as well. Come on, let's not.
Any modern players? John Barnes retired 30 years ago.
I find Harry Kane really intelligent. I think his voice is like expressive voice. You know, we're getting a lot of people saying online. Sorry, before I get onto this, Ahmed's given us a straight answer. He's not supporting England. I've given everyone a very straight answer. I'm not supporting England. You two, you've squirmed out of it. Jahangir, what's your gut feeling? Like, if it's a World Cup final, England versus I don't know, Iran or England versus whatever. Yeah, who do you want to win?
England versus Saudi Arabia.
England versus Saudi Arabia. I'd probably support England.
Okay, and what about you? Thanks for the straight answer. It was the wrong answer, but it was a straight answer. Robert?
I'm just going to enjoy the game and not push political issues at this competition. Is that really hard? I'm just
you must feel something in your gut, like it's penalties. It's like the tension is rising. Everything's on the penalty. Do you want the England player to miss or score?
I'm going to wait and see what happens, enjoy myself. And if the ball goes in, I'll say, wow, that was a good goal. Robert. If the ball doesn't go in, then I'll say, wow, that was a good save. You know, I'm going to enjoy the game.
Are you sitting on a chair or a fence there, Robert? Which one is it?
Oh, yeah, the fence. Yeah, it's been painful. But yeah, come on. Like, again,
Robert, you can't be a football fan and not have a opinion. You can't be in the middle. You've got to be, you know, one way or the other.
He's a Spurs fan, by the way.
Do you know what? Yeah, I
support
Tottenham. To be honest with you. Yeah, I support Tottenham. So I'll be supporting Tottenham players, except Harry Kane, at this World Cup. Is that good enough?
Okay. All right. A lot of people in the comments, not a lot, but quite a few people are saying, you know, we shouldn't really be into football as Muslims. Like, the obsession with football, you know, it's way too much. I'm certainly guilty of it, thinking about it too much, watching it, spending money on subscriptions. I mean, I went to Sports Direct today. I thought I might wear a Brazil shirt today. So I went to Sports Direct and £79 for a crappy, sorry for my language, a crappy little football shirt. I mean, are they a cost of living crisis, 79 quid? So obviously I didn't buy it. But I mean, are we too obsessed by football? Do you reckon as Muslims, is it bordering haram, our obsession with it? Jahangir?
No, I don't think so. I think, I'm on a number of football WhatsApp groups, and on there we have a range of people, even some scholars on there as well. So, quite a few actually. So I think there's a healthy approach to it all. And obviously people don't, abandon their values, but it's something you have to have other interests as well, particularly sporting interests, healthy interests. And there's very little else available for us. I mean, what else is really available for Muslims apart from football and sports? This country it's one of the things I love about this country. It's that we have a lot of people do all kinds of sports. Sporting activities.
I must admit, it's the one thing that I can talk to non-Muslims about easily, because I think we're all guilty of living in a bit of a Muslim bubble at times, and we're interacting with Muslims and not interacting with non. But that's like I find it quite difficult, I must admit, to talk to non-Muslims, like have a normal conversation with them, because we just don't have much in common. But football is something that we can actually talk about. But yeah,
you could try develop a personality, Roshan. That could always help. No. Anyway,
I mean, if you go to a football match, you see all kinds of people these days. You go to Old Trafford.
What I was going to say is,
you see sisters in hijab. I'll tell you something funny. That I was at Old Trafford once, and some lads from Bradford had come down, and United were losing 2-0 at half time. So these lads decided they'd obviously catch up with their prayers. So on the stairs, they took out their prayer mats and started praying, the three of them. And there was this non-Muslim white guy standing next to me, and he's looking at them, and he looks at me and he says, "It's an interesting idea. I hope it works." He thought they were actually praying for United to come back and win during the half-time break.
They probably were, yeah. I mean, are there prayer facilities at Old Trafford?
There isn't any decent prayer facilities like Arsenal and other grounds. United ground is way behind the times, so. And it's not particularly pleasant to pray.
But you're a United fan, and so is Ahmed. No one's ever answered this question. They all think I'm being stupid when I say it. But there's a massive devil on your shirt, like literally a devil with horns. That's the symbol of Manchester United. Like Shaitan is on your shirt.
Yeah, it's a reminder. It's to remind you that Shaitan's closer to you than you're.
I'm not even joking, by the way.
I know you're joking, but to answer that question, in the Quran, is the devil described as looking the way it does on the United badge, or are you taking biblical reference?
It isn't, as far as I know.
A biblical or Western reference.
You're saying that's not the devil?
No, I'm just saying it's like
tail horns, not devil.
A Western depiction of the devil. So you need to break free. You need to break free of this Western-centric mindset.
Mental gymnastics.
To answer your previous question about football, when you travel the world, I'm sure it probably happened to you when you went to Afghanistan. Football is such an easy way to bring to people that don't even speak the same language. You can have a conversation with them about football. And, even though as a United fan, I don't have much respect for Liverpool, I actually do have a little bit of respect for Mohamed Salah, the way he conducts himself. And I think, him and Cisse, when he used to play for Newcastle, has actually taught many non-Muslims a lot about the faith. Cisse, even though he, he retracted on it, there was a point where he wasn't going to wear the Newcastle top because of the Wonga and the interest rates, and so there was a point in time where non-Muslims are finding out that, Islamically, we're against interest rates, and these are the reasons why. So there is a huge benefit from, Muslims interacting with football, and, dare I say it, doing dawah by football, teaching people about our religion, teaching people about, our way of life, and hopefully convincing them about the message. So yeah, I'm not having that football is haram.
Can I just add, Qatar is kind of doing that as well. Apparently, there's been reports that there are major placards with hadiths from the Prophet ﷺ put up around the football stadium, I think it is. So they're going to be doing a little bit of dawah themselves. But I think that the Qatari authorities need to go a step further in order to combat this Western worldview that's being pushed to this competition. I think that if these European teams are not going to compromise and give up on their propaganda mission, then I think Qatari authorities should implement, say, I don't know, the call to prayers during matches, pause matches for prayers. I think that there should be a khutbah sermon given every Friday just before a game starts. And all fans are going to have to listen to it. Perhaps they can lecture them about the ills of Western society, for example, things like that. I think, if we're going to turn this competition into a Western-styled propaganda platform, then I think Muslims should engage and do the same. FIFA are not enforcing their own rules clearly, so why don't we all just pile in, push as many messages as we want to push? And since it's in a Muslim country, I think Qatari authorities have a religious obligation here to push a bit of Islam. Let's make this a dawah opportunity. Let's push as much dawah as we possibly can down the throats of anyone and everyone who are going to try and push their views down Muslim throats. I think that that's the perfect response.
But Robert, Qatar has actually, I mean, I'd like to get your views on this, everyone maybe. Qatar has actually changed its laws during this 1 month. So obviously they're allowing alcohol to be, basically in fan zones. You're allowed to drink alcohol, whereas before it was just restricted to top-end hotels or something. Even that I don't think is halal, but they're extending they're relaxing their alcohol laws. So obviously the LGBT thing is the major thing that they're changing. So basically, I guess if two LGBT men kiss in the street and whatever, they're not going to get stopped from doing that. Otherwise, before they would have, and probably deported. And the other thing, I think, in hotels, so unmarried couples, they can share rooms in hotels and stuff like that. I'm not sure whether that was banned before or not, but I've heard that they can do that. It's very easy to basically fornicate in a Qatari hotel if you want to do that. I mean, they're changing their laws and they're compromising on Islamic law, on the Sharia, on Allah's law during this World Cup. Is there any justification for that?
Well, that's the thing that people don't seem to realize. Like, all this criticism aimed at Qatar, especially over their laws, is ridiculous, because Qatar, as far as the Muslim world is concerned, is very liberal on a lot of enforcement of Islamic laws. Like, if you were to compare the laws and the practices in Qatar to some of their neighbors, like, for example, the Islamic Republic of Iran, or indeed the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, for example, not too far from Qatar, they enforce hijab laws, for example, attempting to try and bring the country closer to Islamic tradition. Qatar doesn't even do that normally. They don't enforce the hijab even on their own citizens, as far as I'm aware, not by law anyway. And this is something which, a lot of Muslim onlookers might look at this and go, well, Qatar, they should be doing so. They are a Muslim country after all. So all of this condemnation that Qatar is like, strict and oppresses women and all this type of stuff, I just don't buy it. They're just using it as an opportunity to vent their Islamophobic and anti-Arab racism, quite frankly. And I think that Qataris are actually the victim of discrimination in this regard when looking at the criticism. And a final point from me, when you think about how Muslims are treated in the West, Muslims who live here in Britain peacefully, practice their faith quietly in their own time, they are lectured and bullied and discriminated against constantly for, you know, bringing their religion over here. If you want to practice Islam, why don't you go back to Islam land or wherever it is you came from, go back and live in Mecca. That's what they're told on a day-to-day basis. Yet when you actually go to a Muslim country where Muslims are living and practicing their faith, they still get lectured about, oh, you shouldn't be behaving like that. You've got to change your laws, change your way of life. That's why I'm just absolutely sick of it. And I think that, you know, I really am disappointed if the Qatari authorities don't taking such a soft approach on this, and FIFA should be absolutely disgraced as well for basically allowing this anti-Muslim discrimination and hostility towards Islam to take place, because they wouldn't do that if it was another country in another circumstance. They're being treated totally different because they're Arab and because they're Muslim.
Okay,
yeah,
finally.
They're changing their laws. They're suspending their laws or not applying them for the month. I think that's the best way to put it. But, you know, I think this whole human rights thing, yes, the criticism has had some benefits in terms of reforms, but, you know, Western rights groups and agencies, particularly when it's the media and the politicians, often use the rights agenda to get concessions and trade and other deals. So I think some of them are upset that they didn't get the contracts. And I don't know what it is exactly they want from Qatar, maybe the gas or whatever. But at the end of this, I think that they're going to extract something from Qatar and everything will be fine. I think it'll, when the World Cup happens. So I think this is just a big, I mean, they've always known what the laws are in Qatar. So I think this is just a big hoo-ha to put pressure on them, get some contracts, get some concessions, and then things will be calm again for the World Cup.
Okay, brothers, Ahmed, Jahangir, and Robert, I know that I've kept you longer than I asked you, so feel free to leave any time, by the way, if you have to go somewhere else. We're just going to continue maybe for, I don't know, 10 or so more minutes. It depends if anyone joins the stream. I have been very, I mean, lots of people are watching and engaging on the comment section, but no one's been brave enough until Parina. Parina, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes,
Assalamu
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sister. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How is everybody?
Yeah, we're all fine, I think. What would you like to say, Parina? Thanks for joining, by the way. You're the first to join. You're the bravest. What would you like to say?
I was wondering whether I should join or not, because anyways, I got a question like, why do you expect Qatar to behave differently than other puppet rulers? Because they are actually Middle Eastern countries, and you always see them following the Western whatever orders they get. You never see them going out of the line. It's just that recently, for some reason, Qatar was showing it was Islamic and everything, but still they are like puppet rulers. So why do you have great expectations that they will not change their rules for their masters or whatever?
Shall I and Jahangir answer that question, because we both know Qatar reasonably well. Jahangir, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think, look, it's easy to say all the Muslim rulers are puppet rulers. I think we should avoid saying that. At the end of the day, they have their own interests, and those interests often align with the West. There's a history. They have security arrangements. They were created by the Western nations, and they have a long-term relationship. So yes, they have that relationship. Yes, they have the bases, and they often do things in the interests of the West. But ultimately, they also do. These are not really the Gulf states. They, as Lawrence of Arabia wrote in his diaries, these are statelets who will forever be dependent on the West for their security and for their survival. And that's exactly what they are. They essentially are not even, I mean, you can't even call them states. They're like family states in a way. It's family rule. It's rule for their own people. But Qatar has been the the one that has on occasions stood for certain interests in the Muslim world. It facilitated negotiations with the Taliban, for example, and it has supported certain Islamic movements. But ultimately, as the sister has said, I wouldn't call them a puppet regime. They have an intimate relationship with the West, and their interests coincide, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, the only thing. Sorry, Parina, go ahead.
Yes, like what I understand, these rulers right now, because the public, their own population they are kind of like fed up and very, because they're going against Islamic, principles. So they are kind of like, they're behaving like a bit kind of like to pacify their own public. So that's why they show a little Islamic sentiments. But overall, they never, when they make the laws, it's always un-Islamic. And you never see them like they're making pleasing Islam, like Allah. In the end, it's always like they show people, yes, we are trying to do and everything. In the end, you always see that it's totally different. Like it's just to pacify their own people, because they don't want people to revolt against them. That's the only thing I understand. So it's just it's a very temporary pacifier they give to the population. That's why you think that, I feel that that's why they show they are Islamic. They're promoting, they're doing these negotiations with Taliban and everything. I don't think in the core belief of these rulers are to do anything with Islam. I really don't see. Yes, they did not stop you from praying and everything, but still, in the end, I really feel that even this LGBT will be like, it will be like everywhere. And one of the reasons I go to Dubai every year, my family lives there, and the way I have seen people changing, like my family doesn't, they do, I mean, I have my sisters there, they don't see it, but I see it because I go from US, and I come with the memory of like how Arabs were before. And when I went last time in 2021, it was a big shock for me to see like Arab women sitting in the cafeteria by themselves, and the way they were dressed up and the makeup and everything. I think it's just changing, but people don't see it because they live there. So I don't think the rulers will make any like even the Qatar will totally bend its knees. It's just that they're kind of like maybe trying to slowly condition people's mind, and you will see it. That's what I feel.
Jazakallah khair, sister. Just a really quick point from me before I introduce.
I was about to ask, sorry, I'm sorry, quoting. Assalamu alaikum, Dili. I'm his big fan. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yes, tell me, Brother Roshan.
Jazakallah khair, Farina. Yeah, just a quick point from me before I introduce people, alhamdulillah, finally joining the feed. So I'll get to Abdul Jabbar and Dili, of course, in a minute. So basically the way to understand it, brothers and sisters, is Qatar has two constituencies, the West, and I would guess the Sunni Arab world, and by extension, the Muslim world, and maybe even the global South to a certain extent. So if you look at it through the lens of Al Jazeera Arabic and Al Jazeera English, which is the example I always like to give. So Al Jazeera Arabic is for the Arabs. So it's more of an Islamic channel. You won't find any of the LGBT stuff on there, and it's anti-imperialistic, and it's generally closer to our values as Muslims. Whereas the English channel will be promoting abortion, promoting LGBT, really focused on the West. So Qatar is playing a double game. So it needs the US airbase from its point of view to protect itself, mainly from Saudi Arabia, because it thinks that Saudi Arabia is going to swallow it up. That's why it has the US airbase. But at the same time, it wants to make overtures to especially Sunni Arabs. So it plays this double, triple game very cleverly. It's been very successful in doing it. And obviously it has all the money in the world. So it can buy people off. It can buy silence. It can buy loyalty. And it hasn't gone down, to give it some credit, it hasn't gone down the route yet of the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and others, Bahrain, who have totally sold out to the Western Israel. Qatar still, if you go to Palestine, Qatar is probably the most popular nation amongst Palestinians because they've given more of their oil and gas wealth to aid the Palestinians than any other nation. So, I have mixed feelings about Qatar. I lived there for 2 or 3 years. I went there last year as well for a brief period, reacquaint. I have many friends in Qatar, know the country well. I wouldn't completely write it off like I would the UAE or Bahrain or even Saudi Arabia. They haven't completely sold out, although I haven't found their reaction to the World Cup and compromising on all these Islamic. I haven't been surprised by that either. Dilly, how are you, brother? You're sick, right?
Assalamualaikum, yeah. Jangir bhai, brothers, how you all doing? Assalamualaikum. Yeah, I'm not well. I've got a chest infection.
So why are you here?
I've got I don't know. I had FOMO. I thought I was missing out because you've not done a big picture.
I thought you were
you've not done a big picture in such a long time. So I thought I wanted to be part of it.
A lot of people are saying I should do it at least once every 2 weeks. I think I should. It's just laziness and just doing other stuff, I guess. How are you feeling after your humbling? I haven't watched your humbling yet. Your MMA humbling.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. When you get beaten up by 16, 17-year-old that you wouldn't give a second look to in a real situation, it is humbling. Alhamdulillah.
No, but yeah. I haven't watched it yet, Dilly. But the fact is, you're going up against, whether they're 16 or 17, they're trained in MMA for several years. You had 1 week, right? So the best you can hope for is to survive, firstly, and give a good account, get a few punches in, or if you kick, that's the best you can hope for. You were never going to win, right?
Out of Coach Khalid, I know we're digressing from the World Cup, but out of Coach Khalid's students, one of them was a 16, 17-year-old, whereas all of them were seasoned MMA guys. And whilst I trained for 1 week, there was obviously a 3-month preparation for that. So just to survive that 1 week, there was 3 months preparation for that 1 week. So, but alhamdulillah, I don't regret it. I've got my first jiu-jitsu competition in February, and I look forward to it. But
to be honest, I mean, Ahmed, you're a boxer as well, aren't you? So, I mean, I've never been in the ring ever, apart from like when I was 13 years old in a stupid school contest. So I admire anybody who is willing to test his manhood, to nakedly test his manhood in front of a crowd of other people. Because literally, when you put yourself in that ring, especially at a heavyweight level, Ahmed, one punch could end it, right? Doesn't matter how big you are. Ahmed's 6'5", built like a brick, you know what? But literally, one punch could end you, right?
Yeah, I mean, that might be the nicest compliment that Roshan's ever paid me. What about you, Philip? Dave, is that the nicest thing he's ever said to you? That he respects us for getting in the ring? Oh, did he's gone?
No, I do. Yeah. It takes guts.
Yeah.
Should we go to Abdul Jabbar, who's been waiting patiently?
Before we jump into the World Cup, how, as the editor of 5 Pillars, how have you not watched a documentary that Dilly, spent his hard?
I have watched the first 2 episodes, and I just keep on getting distracted. People distract me.
Roshan gets tired watching it. That's where it's a workout to watch it.
Huh?
It's a workout for you to watch it. You start.
No, well, I think honestly, I don't think enough people have watched that doc. I'll be honest.
Burning calories.
I think it should be getting at least 50,000 views on YouTube each episode, because it's taken. Because I'll be honest, obviously we're not the richest organization, right? So all our work, and especially my video work, it's a degree above amateur, but it's not professionally slick. Whereas your documentary took production values that we've done to another level. So not only did you have the storyline, but you had the production values. And I think far more should be watching this documentary. And yeah, that's my opinion.
Alhamdulillah, I mean, for those of you who haven't watched it, I think you should tune into The Good Fight. It has 3 elements. It has an informative and educational aspect for people to learn basic self-defense moves. Number 2, there's obviously an Islamic angle. There's a dawah reflection at the end, and there's obviously an entertainment aspect of just watching me get smashed. So yeah, I mean, I do encourage everyone to watch it. I mean, I fought amateur boxing. I had quite a few amateur bouts when I was 16, 17, and to have gone back to combat training, it was a massive thing. It was a massive thing. But on just on a quick one on Qatar, before I'm going to say one thing just on Qatar, and I'm going to park because I'm sweating and I'm not well. I've met so many white guys who I train with, jiu-jitsu and other things, and obviously the Qatar conversation has been something that's been there. And I've told them, I told them straight. I said, why is this even a conversation? Money dictates. That's why Gary Neville's there. That's why Beckham's there. Why is that so hard for you to understand? And why is the LGBT issue become such a big thing? Are you going there to watch football, or are you going there to gallivant around in your gay ways in public? and once I explained that to them, I said, "Are you going there to watch football, or are you going there for something else to do in public? I don't understand." And they were. I was like, "Are any of you actually going to boycott the World Cup?" They're like, "Nah." I mean, you guys are going to watch it. You're going to back your team, and some of you guys are going out there. I goes, "Look, don't give me this nonsense." I goes, this whole thing about boycotting, and who the hell is the West to be telling Qatar or the Muslim world about human rights and like consistency on the moral high ground? It's just like, come on, chill your case. This is all money. Yeah, this is all money. Why would the World Cup be in the most randomest country like Qatar? Because there was obviously something that was agreed upon behind closed doors. I actually believe that an element of Saudi and the UAE's boycott of Qatar, some of it was grounded in the jealousy that they were hosting the World Cup.
Yeah,
I genuinely believe that. So I just think two things: the West and white Westerners just need to chill. This was all money. It's all money business deal, right? In the same way that the West has no problem with the head choppers that are in Saudi Arabia, but they have a problem with the ISIS head choppers. Yeah. In the same way that they have the problem with Taliban's Sharia laws, but they don't have a problem with Saudi's Sharia laws. Yeah. So this is all just inconsistencies and hypocrisy from the West. They're in no position to highlight anything. And in all honesty, if they're still wondering to themselves, how did it end up in Qatar? Then that means they're not actually politically astute or aware of how the world works. It's all money. I was watching Have I Got News For You the other day, and they were grilling Gary Neville, right? And it was just simple. It was just all money. Gary Neville was stuck. He was so embarrassed. It's just money, isn't it? Qatar must have paid off a big boy deal, considering that they invest multi-billions of pounds in the UK. Of course, they got the deal that they wanted. Khalas. And as for like Westerners going out there, go there to watch football, right? You shouldn't be worrying about holding next man's hands and skipping around in rainbow colors and stuff like that. Do that in your own country. Don't. You're going somewhere else, right? And that's it, really. I've just found the whole Qatar World Cup conversation to be just pathetic. It's been so stupid that it's so obvious why it's in Qatar, and it's so obvious that why should they bend to your rules? And Qatar's compromised a lot, by the way. They've compromised loads. So, yeah.
Dilly, before I let you go, there's a question. Are you and me going out there?
We just spoke about this earlier on today. I've been pushing Roshan to go big time. Like, we should go, but Roshan
they've relaxed the rules, Dilly and Roshan. So, yeah, you don't have to have a ticket. So
really?
you need to. You don't. Yeah. I'm getting messages every day.
Inshallah, me or Roshan will be trying our best to be out there. I was just speaking to Roshan a couple of hours ago on the phone, and I said to him, I was sick in bed, and I was like, "You need to go."
It's going to be a great experience. You need to be out there, both of you. You know, it's not even in Qatar. It's mainly around Doha. So you're going to be meeting so many stars and football players. That's what I'm really looking for in the malls and in the Asian restaurants.
Are you going? Jangir, are you going?
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going.
That's why I got him on the show.
Easy, Jangir Bhai. Jangir Bhai does not mess about. He is the truest football fan, Muslim football fan.
I've got 3 tickets. I've got one in the first round, Wales versus Iran. Then the next round, I don't know, and then one in the quarterfinal.
Wales versus Iran, yeah. Wicked. Roshan, we should try it. I mean, the answer to the question is we're trying to get out there. We're trying.
I sent Roshan a message today, actually, saying, "Do you want to share a room?" Because I'm trying to go there to cover the African teams, part of my company. I bought a ticket, but from a second-hand, a third-party website, and it's all a bit dodgy. The ticket's going to arrive 2 days before, but you can't get a visa. You have to apply for a visa. But if you're telling me that you don't need a ticket to get a visa,
no, you don't need a visa. You don't need a visa. You need somebody who's already going with a Hayar card. You need some accommodation. If you've got someone's got a Hayar card, they can asked 2 or 3, I think it's 2, maybe 3 other people to come.
Okay, so you need to give
but
me
the
your
accommodation is the difficult bit, getting some accommodation
Yeah,
out
think-
there,
Brother, I need
and
to get your
somebody
This is
phone
to.
number.
what
I need to
this
get
is
your
what is
phone
difficult
number
for us to
and reply.
justify the cost. Yeah.
But
Just
they
one
have,
Anyway.
it's good to check their website. They have relaxed. I think they are trying to get more people in. So maybe the negative propaganda has had an impact on them in terms of
Yeah.
numbers. So, but I think we should all go. I think we should support it. It's the first time in a Muslim country. It's going to be really exciting. And I'm actually confident that the Qataris will deliver something of a spectacle.
Okay.
Inshallah. So
should we get Brother Abdul Jabbar on? He's been waiting very
I'm
patiently.
gone,
That's
brothers.
absolutely
I'm gone. I'm sweating. I need to get back to sleep. I'm really
Okay.
tired. Keep
All
your
right. No, I'll give you
du'as.
some time. You're welcome.
I need to go as well and pick up my family.
Okay, Ahmed. Thanks for coming on.
No,
All right. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Sorry to keep you waiting, Brother Abdul Jabbar, for so long. You've been waiting patiently there in the background. Assalamu alaikum. Where are you? Where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from near Leeds.
Oh, near Leeds. Okay.
Yes,
What would you like to say, brother?
I just want to mention about the World Cup. I think it's fantastic that a Muslim country's hosting it for the first time. And I was there for a few years, and I knew some of the people involved in the World Cup. And the World Cup is really there to promote brand Qatar. And I know some. So when the Arab Spring was around, and then off that there was the blockade of the Qatari as a nation. One of the things I realized, and I spoke to 1 or 2 people at the time, Al Jazeera English, Qatari government and the people there don't actually have any influence whatsoever. This is the claim. They don't have any influence whatsoever over what goes on that arm of the media. The Arabic one, yes, they have some control over it, but not over the other one. And it's very unfortunate that we have a historical event where there's a Muslim nation hosting the World Cup at a huge loss with regards to financial expenditure. There's no profit in it for Qatar. In fact, they'll be losing billions of dollars by hosting it. Yet they're doing it just to prove the point that 1, promote brand Qatar, number 2, increase the influence of football within the region and within their own nation, because I know over the last 15 years or so, there's been a lot of emphasis on youth football in Qatar, Oman, and Kuwait and other nations, Saudi Arabia. It's a shame that Western media has to focus on the little issues where we as a nation are quite challenging even on our home ground. It's not like as though it's widely acceptable, the promotion of these values over other values. So what's important is that we as British people, and we live in a time where we should respect other people's values and opinions. Should it not be the time for us to respect other people's opinions, i.e. the Muslims in Qatar? So they may have restrictions on how people dress, how they conduct themselves. Is part of being respectful towards other people and other cultures. Unfortunately, the pomp and glamour of the World Cup's been overshadowed by negativity around this. And I'm sure if LGBT was not an issue, then it'd be something else. It'd be workers' rights. If it wasn't workers' rights, I'm sure it'd be, I don't know, the way they dress. If it wasn't the way they dress, it'd be the professions the ladies in Qatar go into. If it wasn't that, I'm sure it'd be, I don't know. Do
you think the real problem ultimately is that they're Muslims?
Yes. That's the only problem. There's no other issue.
And the issue is not going to get solved until they ditch their deen, basically.
That issue will never be solved until they give up their religion. And you know, as Muslims, we don't give up our religion. It swings in roundabouts. So the way I'm guessing this is operated is Qatar has to balance out the LGBT by making a few compromise or whatever pressures they have from external. They have to balance them out by relaxing some of the rules around the event or around the nation. Otherwise, there's a risk of this World Cup being completely overshadowed in the media by LGBT and a gay somebody gets beaten up.
Do you think that obviously the football hasn't started yet, the ball hasn't been kicked. Do you think that as soon as the football starts, everyone's just going to focus on that and all this stuff about LGBT and workers, it's all going to be forgotten pretty quickly?
You would really hope, but it depends on how the media spins the story. And we've seen many events being overshadowed by false information or by nuances that have been promoted to the front page. So this is the problem that we face simply because they're Muslims. It's a different rule book. Okay. And you would hope that we're going to focus on the football and nothing else.
Yeah.
But you just don't know.
I think we need to push back. I do think that Muslims, as usual, are on the back foot. We're firefighting. And it's been a very effective Western propaganda campaign because obviously they own the most powerful media, whereas our main voice, apart from a few TV stations, is probably social media, isn't it? Which is not as powerful as not as powerful as the mainstream media.
Even if you
and we need to push back. We need to defend our values. I'm not seeing enough of that from Muslims.
Indeed, we do need to protect our values, and the problem is every media source and even social media, you'll find the algorithms will make like the shares go to like-minded people. So anytime you do a promotion, it will go to people who are naturally followers of 5 pillars. It won't go to the people who need the information in the correct way, who can then start to understand, oh, I understand why Muslims think that way. Okay, I've traveled with non-Muslims to these parts of the world, and honestly, no word of a lie, there's people who I've traveled with who are well in the 60s, a full academic background, you know, you're talking PhD scholars, published many papers, and they even think that there's people driving around in pickup trucks with Kalashnikovs in the Middle East. Until they see it, it's a shock to them. The shock is, where are these people who drive around with shimars over their heads and faces in the back of a Toyota Hilux Invincible with their AK-47s? And when they don't see that, it's a shock. But that's what they've been programmed to think. And if you look at our Muslim youth, they're not very far from it. They don't travel to the Middle East. They don't see what other countries are like. They believe what they see on TV and social media.
So even within our own ranks, we need to do a bit of education.
I think a lot of education in our own ranks. And what the world needs to understand is the gesture of Qatar actually hosting the World Cup at a massive loss, then moving these stadiums to parts of Africa where they don't have much football. I think it's a wonderful charitable gesture as part of their bid.
All right. Jazakallah khair, Brother Abdul Jabbar from Leeds. I really appreciate you joining the feed and being brave enough to do that, and really made some great points there. So yeah, Jazakallah khair, brother. We'll see you soon, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. All the best. Walaikum salam.
Okay, brothers and sisters, let me end it there. We've had a long and I think quite balanced and nuanced and detailed discussion, some fun along the way. Jazakallah khair to all my guests. So just kind of rounding up and concluding, you know, these Western hypocrites, they've really done a massive job on Qatar, haven't they? And it's not as if I'm pro-Qatar myself. We all realize that Qatar has many imperfections, but I take what the Western media and politicians and celebrities and footballers are doing, I take it as a personal insult, you know? And I think we have to defend Islam and Muslims because ultimately an attack on Qatar during the World Cup and Qatari values is an attack on Islamic values, you know? So I'm going to put my criticism of Qatar to one side and I'm going to focus on the real bad guys here, and those are the Western cultural imperialists. Okay, brothers and sisters, I'm going to say salam alaikum now and end the stream. just to let you know that I know that, you know, Jazakallah khair to all those that have donated on Super Chat tonight, by the way. I know we're going through a cost of living crisis, brothers and sisters, but your donations to Islamic causes like 5 Pillars, but not just 5 Pillars, many others as well, you know, you're not decreasing your wealth, you're increasing your wealth, and you're increasing your barakah. There is barakah in those donations. So please keep them coming. Please support our work. £5 or £10, even in the cost of living crisis, a month is something that we can all afford. There is no barakah in Starbucks coffee. There is no barakah in Costa coffee. There is no barakah in loads of takeaways every week and all this frivolous spending on entertainment, etc., etc. But there is barakah in Islamic spending and Islamic charity giving. So please do keep your donations to 5 Pillars coming. We really do depend on them. So I've been told off by many guests and by also the people commenting on tonight's show for not doing the big picture enough. I think you've enjoyed it. Plenty of interaction. Not enough people coming on the live stream, but I kind of get why. It's a bit intimidating going live on air. Plenty of comments, though. Plenty of people watching. Jazakallah khair to everybody. And I will try and do the big picture. I've broken this promise many times, but I will try and do it at least twice a month. So once every 2 weeks, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.